And what feels like heartbreak may secretly be heaven separating you from a battle you were never meant to carry. There is a hidden truth about Jay that your spirit has been sensing for a long time. You tried to ignore it. You tried to give the benefit of the doubt. You tried to hold the connection together with loyalty, patience, and love. But deep inside, something never felt fully at peace. Chosen one, this message is not coming to destroy you. It is coming to awaken you. Because God revealed that this separation was not random. It was not an accident. It was not bad timing. It was not because you were unworthy, unlovable, or forgotten. This was divine intervention. And the moment you understand that, everything changes. You see, many chosen ones make the mistake of trying to fix spiritually broken connections through emotional effort. They pray less and panic more. They seek explanations from people instead of wisdom from God. But heaven is saying right now, stop chasing clarity from Jay and start seeking clarity from me. Because when God begins separating people, there is always a deeper reason hidden beneath the surface. Sometimes the separation happens because your destiny is evolving faster than the relationship can survive. Sometimes God removes someone because their spirit can no longer go where He is taking you. And sometimes the separation happens because the enemy was using that connection to drain your peace, delay your purpose, and weaken your spiritual discernment. Chosen one, hear this carefully. Not everyone who enters your life is assigned to stay forever. Some people are assignments, some are lessons, some are mirrors, and some are tests disguised as soul connections. Jay may have entered your life carrying familiarity, intensity, and emotional closeness. But God sees beyond emotions. He sees intentions. He sees spiritual energy. He sees what is happening behind the scenes when nobody else can. And what God revealed about this connection is something your spirit already suspected. The confusion, the emotional highs and lows, the draining conversations, the unexplained distance, the anxiety you felt after dealing with them, those were not random feelings. That was your discernment trying to warn you. Chosen one, your spirit can recognize danger before your mind fully understands it. That is why you felt exhausted around certain energies even when you couldn't explain why. That is why your peace disappeared after certain conversations. That is why you kept praying for confirmation. And now confirmation has arrived. God is exposing the hidden truth. The separation had to happen because you were beginning to lose yourself trying to hold on to someone who was not aligned with your next season. Read that again. You were shrinking your spirit to maintain a connection God was already trying to remove. But because you loved deeply, you kept fighting for it. Because you are loyal, you kept hoping. Because you saw potential in them, you ignored the warnings. Chosen one, potential can be dangerous when it blinds you to reality. God never asked you to carry people who refuse to heal. God never asked you to destroy your peace to prove your love. And God never asked you to remain connected to energies that continuously disturb your spirit. That is why heaven stepped in. This separation is not punishment. It is protection. And the reason God is telling you to pray first is because your emotions are trying to pull you back toward what your spirit already escaped from. The enemy wants you emotional G. Odd wants you discerning. There is a difference. Emotions can make you reconnect with what God removed. Discernment helps you understand why it was removed in the first place. Chosen one, you have entered a season where God is purifying your environment. Not everybody can follow you into your next level. Some people were only meant to walk with you temporarily. And Jay may have fulfilled their purpose already. That truth hurts, but it also frees you. Because many chosen ones stay trapped in cycles simply because they cannot accept that certain connections have expiration dates. You kept asking, why did this happen? Why did they suddenly change? Why did the connection fall apart? But maybe the real question is, why were you trying to hold on to someone God was pulling away from you? Sometimes God creates distance because closeness was becoming dangerous. And what makes this even deeper is that some separations happen silently in the spiritual realm long before they happen physically. Your spirit already knew. That is why your intuition became louder. That is why the signs increased. That is why you started feeling disconnected even before the separation fully happened. God was preparing your soul before your eyes could understand it. Chosen one, stop blaming yourself for this ending. Not every broken connection means you failed. Sometimes it means you finally stopped betraying yourself. Sometimes it means God heard prayers you cried in silence. Sometimes it means heaven saw battles you could not see. And this is why prayer must come first. Because if you react emotionally, you may misunderstand what God is doing spiritually. Prayer calms the soul. Prayer restores discernment. Prayer reveals truth hidden beneath emotions. When you pray first, you stop operating from desperation. You stop chasing closure from humans. You stop forcing doors open that God already closed. And that is exactly what heaven is teaching you now. Chosen one, there is a reason your spirit feels different after this separation. Part of you feels hurt, but another part of you feels relief. That relief is confirmation. Your soul knows when something heavy has finally been removed. You may miss them emotionally, but your spirit feels lighter without the confusion, inconsistency, and emotional warfare. That is not hatred. That is spiritual awareness. Because regarding our connections from God bring peace, not constant chaos. Yes, every relationship has challenges. But there is a difference between healthy difficulty and spiritual exhaustion. And many chosen ones have normalized suffering because they mistake intensity for destiny. But God is correcting that mindset now. Just because a connection felt powerful does not mean it was permanent. Sometimes the strongest emotional attachments are actually the hardest spiritual lessons. Jay was not sent to destroy you, but they may have revealed what still needed healing inside of you. Maybe the attachment revealed your fear of abandonment. Maybe the inconsistency revealed your lack of boundaries. Maybe the separation revealed how much of your identity was tied to being needed by others. Chosen one, this is deeper than romance. This is spiritual transformation. God is teaching you how to choose peace over attachment, discernment over obsession, healing over emotional dependency. And that lesson will change your entire future. Because once a chosen one learns to pray first instead of reacting first, everything shifts. Your standards shift, your energy shifts, your discernment sharpens. Your species, it becomes harder to manipulate. You stop falling for appearances. You stop ignoring red flags. You stop confusing attention with alignment. And suddenly you begin seeing people through spiritual eyes instead of emotional blindness. That is where God has been trying to bring you, not into bitterness, not into revenge, but into wisdom. The separation was necessary because your future requires clarity. There are blessings coming that cannot survive in confusion. There are doors opening that require emotional discipline. There are assignments from God that demand spiritual focus. And some people simply cannot go where God is taking you. Chosen one, do not interrupt your healing by romanticizing what hurt you. Do not let loneliness make you reconnect with cycles God already broke. And most importantly, do not pray for people to stay when God is clearly showing you why they had to leave. Instead, pray for understanding. Pray for strength. Pray for discernment. Pray for peace. Because peace is one of the greatest confirmations God can give. If the separation is from Him, peace will eventually replace the pain. Not immediately, not overnight. But gradually your soul will. Begin breathing again. You will laugh again, sleep peacefully again, feel like yourself again. And one day you will look back and realize that what felt like devastation was actually deliverance. That is the hidden truth God wanted you to see. Jay was part of the journey, but not the final destination. And now heaven is asking you to release what no longer aligns with your spirit, not with anger, not with pride, but with surrender. Because the moment you stop fighting God's separation, you make room for God's restoration. Chosen one, your life is entering a new chapter. A chapter where your peace matters. A chapter where your discernment becomes sharper than your emotions. A chapter where you no longer beg for clarity from people because God already revealed the truth. And here is the final message heaven wants you to hear. Do not fear separation when God is the one creating it, because sometimes the most loving thing God can do is remove what you refuse to let go of. So pray first. Before texting them back, pray first. Before reopening old doors, pray first. Before believing appearances, pray first. Before doubting your worth, pray first. Because when a chosen one, prays first, deception loses its power. And when God reveals the hidden truth, no amount of emotional attachment can hide it anymore. The separation happened for a reason, not to break you, but to prepare you, not to punish you, but to protect your calling, and not to make you weaker, but to remind you that your destiny is too important to stay. Connect it to what no longer aligns with your soul. Because after the separation comes the silence, and for many people, silence is where they lose themselves. The calls stop, the conversations disappear, the energy changes, and suddenly you are left alone with your thoughts, your memories, and the questions that keep echoing in your mind late at night. But hear this carefully. The silence after separation is not emptiness. It is spiritual surgery. God removes distractions so he can finally speak to you without interruption. For too long, your emotions were louder than your discernment. For too long, you were trying to save connections while neglecting your own soul. For too long, you were pouring energy into people who could not pour the same energy back into you. And heaven said, "Enough, chosen one." There are moments when God isolates you because your destiny requires purification, not punishment, purification. Because every level of elevation requires separation. You cannot carry old emotional baggage into a new spiritual season. You cannot hear God clearly while constantly surrounded by confusion. And you cannot fully step into your purpose while remaining attached to people who continuously disturb your peace. That is why this separation feels so intense. Your spirit is detoxing from emotional chaos. And yes, some days you will miss them. Some days memories will hit unexpectedly. Some days your heart will try to convince you that maybe you should go back, apologize, reconnect, or reopen the door. But that is why God said, pray first, because emotions change hourly, but divine wisdom remains stable. Chosen one of the enemy's greatest strategies is making you lonely enough to return to what God delivered you from. Be careful. Loneliness can create illusions. It can make toxic situations look romantic. It can make unhealthy people seem irreplaceable. It can make you forget all the pain simply because you miss the familiarity. But familiarity is not always destiny. Sometimes people feel familiar because they mirror old wounds you never healed. That is why you kept attracting the same energy in different forms, different faces, different names, same lesson, until now. Because this separation is teaching you something your soul desperately needed to learn. Not everybody deserves continued access to your energy. Chosen one, you are not difficult to love. You are not too emotional. You are not too deep. You are not asking for too much by wanting honesty, consistency, loyalty, peace, and emotional safety. The problem is that you kept expecting spiritually unavailable people to provide what only healed souls can give. And God had to reveal the truth before you lost yourself completely trying to earn love that should have been natural. Read that again. Real love does not constantly make you question your worth. Real alignment does not continuously destroy your peace. Real spiritual connections do not leave you emotionally drained every single day. Yes, relationships require effort, but they should not require self-destruction. And some chosen ones have spent years abandoning themselves just to keep people comfortable. God is ending that cycle now. This is a season where you stop begging to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. This is the season where you stop lowering your standards just to avoid being alone. And this is the season where your relationship with God becomes stronger than your attachment to unstable people. Chosen one, Jay may never fully explain why things happened the way they did. That truth hurts. You may never receive the apology you hoped for. You may never receive full honesty. You may never hear them admit the damage they caused. But heaven is saying something powerful right now. Closure does not always come through conversations. Sometimes closure comes through revelation. God reveals enough for your spirit to finally let go. And once you truly see the truth, you stop chasing explanations. Because the signs were always there. The inconsistency was there. The emotional distance was there. The manipulation was there. The hidden jealousy was there. The lack of support was there. The draining energy was there. But your heart kept trying to rewrite reality because you wanted the connection to survive. Chosen one, love should never require blindness, and one of the hardest spirals. Tool lessons is realizing that some people only loved the version of you they could benefit from. The moment you began healing, the moment you began setting boundaries, the moment you stopped overgiving, the moment you started valuing your peace, everything changed. Why? Because some people become uncomfortable when they can no longer control your energy. And that is exactly why this separation became necessary. Your spirit was evolving beyond the connection. You started noticing things you ignored before. You started questioning patterns you once excused. You started protecting your peace instead of sacrificing it. That is growth, painful growth, but necessary growth. Chosen one, heaven is proud of the person you are becoming, even if you cannot fully see it yet. Because every tear, every lonely night, every prayer whispered in silence has been transforming you from the inside out. You are becoming wiser, stronger, more discerning, more spiritually aware, and most importantly, less willing to betray yourself for temporary emotional comfort. That transformation is sacred. The old version of you would have chased harder, begged longer, ignored more red flags, accept less than you deserved. But the new version of you is finally understanding something powerful. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is spiritual responsibility. And once a chosen one learns that lesson, their entire life changes. You stop entertaining confusion. You stop forcing connections. You stop over-explaining your worth. You stop shrinking yourself so others can feel comfortable around your light. Because deep down, you finally realize that God did not create you to live in constant emotional survival mode. He created you for purpose. And purpose requires clarity. That is why this season feels so different. You are being spiritually repositioned. The friendships changing, the relationships ending, the isolation increasing, the emotional triggers surfacing. None of this is random. God is exposing everything that can no longer accompany you into your next chapter. Chosen one, sometimes separation is the answer to prayers you forgot you prayed. Remember the nights you asked God for peace. Remember when you begged Him to remove hidden enemies. Remember when you cried for clarity. Remember when you asked Him to reveal who truly belonged in your life. Well, that is the answer. But many people reject the answer because it arrives wrapped in discomfort. They want healing without endings, growth without separation, elevation without sacrifice. But transformation does not work that way. When God prepares a chosen one for higher levels, He first clears the environment. And yes, it hurts, because attachments are powerful, memories are powerful, emotional bonds are powerful, but God is more powerful than all of them. And if He allowed this separation, there is something ahead of you greater than what was left behind. Do not ignore that truth. Sometimes you are grieving people who are blocking your next blessing, and because your heart cannot yet see the future, it keeps trying to return to the familiar past. But heaven keeps whispering, "Trust me. Trust me, chosen one. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of this healing process that would never settle for confusion again. A stronger version, a healed version, a spiritually mature version. And when you finally become that person, you will understand why this separation had to happen exactly the way it did. You will stop seeing it as rejection. You will see it as redirect, ion. You will stop asking, "Why did I lose them?" and start asking, "Why did I ignore myself for so long?" That shift changes everything, because now your focus is no longer on chasing people. Your focus becomes rebuilding yourself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And that is where your real breakthrough begins. Chosen one, your energy is sacred. Not everyone deserves access to it. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. And this season is teaching you discernment over attachment. The people meant for you will not constantly disturb your spirit. They will not make you beg for honesty. They will not repeatedly break your trust and call it misunderstanding. They will not continuously create chaos around your life. Godly connections bring peace, growth, truth, and alignment. And if someone consistently destroys those things, you must stop romanticizing the connection simply because it once felt meaningful. Some lessons arrive disguised as soulmates, but their real purpose is awakening. And maybe Jay was sent to awaken you, to awaken your boundaries, to awaken your discernment, to awaken your self-worth, to awaken why. Our dependence on God instead of unstable people. If that is true, then the connection fulfilled its purpose already. Now it is time for release. Not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop holding on to what hurts your spirit. Chosen one, heaven is not asking you to become cold. It is asking you to become wise. There is a difference. Wisdom does not close your heart. It protects it. And the stronger your discernment becomes, the less easily manipulated you will be by appearances, charm, or emotional inconsistency. That is spiritual maturity. So if you are listening to this while grieving, while confused, while fighting the urge to reconnect, this is your confirmation. Do not interrupt your healing process trying to revive something God already separated. Trust the silence. Trust the process. Trust the discomfort. And above all, trust God. Because one day you will realize that this separation was not the end of your story. It was the moment your real transformation began.